somewhat embarrassing that different places we go and they don't know me, and it happens too frequently. After my sermon, or saying, "Now, Pastor Campbell, where did you pastor?" And they could tell. I've been so long. They used to ask, "Where are you pastoring?" But now they can tell by looking at me. I must be an old guy retired. And so they'll say, "Where did you last pastor? Where was your church?" And I have to tell them I retired used car dealer. And I don't know about here in Canada, but up there, well, some places car dealers are in the same category as attorneys, But at any rate, because of my experience as a car dealer and other things, well, I've had a lot of experiences, obviously. And some of them you couldn't tell in church, But at any rate, I've had so many experiences with cars and with people buying cars. It caused me to meet a lot of people. And my motto on my business card and on my garage and my dealership was, "Honesty is our greatest asset," which in itself is unusual. People say, "You're a car dealer and you claim to be honest?" Yes. And it can work again. I found it could work against me. Besides that, I was an auto mechanic. That was my trade before had my own dealership. So I professed to know cars. But even after all my experience, I don't know everything about cars. In fact, nowadays, modern cars, I'll lift up somebody raise the hood. I'll say, "What's that?" I wouldn't know how to work on it. But this story I want to tell you was, well, I'll start this way. Cars were my business and my hobby. And I've subscribed to Hemmings Motor News for years. That's the Bible of collector cars, and so on. And so I had a general idea of the value of cars. And I was forced to take some valuable cars in. But at the time I took these valuable cars in, they weren't valuable. They were being laughed at. And some of the cars that are most valuable now were scorned and laughed at. For instance, I have an Amphicar, and there's only about, the club varies, they think probably about 3,800 of them altogether. And I took it in 1971. I had seen one when it was new, and I thought, man, I'd like to have one of those, but they were, that time, about the price of a Cadillac, and frankly, they're a poor car and a worse boat, but with a lot of fun, and I took it in, and probably is not in it more than $500 or $600, and now it's worth about 30 grand, I guess. I don't know, but at any rate, so it gave me an excuse to have these cars, and I kind of knew their value. And so on my lot, if I knew a car had collector potential, I would put a fair price on it. And then people who didn't know cars would come, and because it was old, they thought it should be cheap, And that doesn't always work that way. Sometimes because it's old, it's more expensive. And so this particular story was either a 58 or 59 Ford retractable hardtop, that the top goes in the trunk and so on. I knew this car had great collector potential. In fact, it was fair money even then. And so after having received a few insults on my lot, I did what I would do every now and then, maybe too independent, but I says, "Fool you on me, I'll just take it home." So I took it home and let it sit under the pine trees. And it's strange, fellas, strange people, ladies and gentlemen, that if you pick the right car, even though it's going downhill, sit down under the pine trees, it's appreciating in value faster than it's depreciating. And I knew that. And so this car sat there out in the pine trees for 10 years maybe, I don't know, quite a while. Enough so it was sunk way down into the ground, And then a very wise man came along, and he could see the value in this car. And I put a price on it higher than when it was nice. And he was happy to get it. And I said, it hasn't run for years, as you can see. He says, I don't care about that, I can see what it is. And I said, I can get it running. He says, you don't even have to get it running. He says, I'll tell you the way it is. Just get it out where I can hook onto what hauled in my trailer. And he took off. He made a deposit on it. And he seemed like a sensible guy. He's for sure going to come back. But I thought, well, I'll do him one better. I'll at least get the thing running, I can surely get it running up this time. But I had misplaced the keys. Couldn't remember where the keys were. Fortunately, I knew where the title was, but I couldn't remember where the keys were. I tried all the keys I had and scads of them and couldn't find the key, but it didn't make any big difference, And so I just hot wired it onto the hood, And that was fairly simple in the olden days. I don't know about nowadays, but at any rate, so I hot wired it on the hood. And more than that, having sat so long, the brakes have all dried up, the wheel cylinders and the master cylinder, all this. Maybe some hoses broken, I don't remember. But at any rate, so I had no brakes. And I was alone. Nobody to help me, so I get the thing started without too much trouble. Automatic transmission, but it sunk down there into the dirt, and it couldn't climb up out of the holes it had made for its wheels. It could almost do it. I really rev it up, but it couldn't climb out. So I figured, well, it's close, and I can help it. And so I set the fast idle up really fast, and then the automatic, so I get out and hold the door open and, push, and finally it comes up out of that hole, and it takes off. Remember, the idle's set up really fast, so I jumps in it, and I got a lot of old cars there parked there, and pine trees and stuff, and I have to circle around and then come through the really narrow gate over there, and I can do that. And so I'm picking up speed. I wish I hadn't set the idle quite this fast. And as it hits the level there, now it's really picking up speed. And our place at that time was along the Newport Highway, north of Spokane, in the Mead area, they call it. Some of you probably might have traveled that. And the railroad track was right there. And I'm thinking, this is a bad situation. It could jump the railroad track, go out on the main highway and kill somebody. It might even kill me, but I'm not too happy with that going on. And I got to get the thing stopped, but it's no brakes, it's hot wired on the hood. So I'm panicking, and what am I going to do? And I came upon a brilliant plan. I would hit some small trees, and that will slow it down and it'll eventually get up and die. But this thing is powerful and it's mowing down bigger and bigger trees. I'm heading for more and more trees, bigger trees that didn't want to ruin the thing, but I'm leaving bent over trees around, and circling around there and this way and that. Can't stop, can't shut off. And finally, in desperation, as I'm nearing the railroad track, I ran into a big tree. And it stops, and the steam flies up on the hood as the fan hits the radiator. And I'm sitting there shaking like a leaf, oh man, I could have got killed. Now I got to fix the radiator for the guy, and fortunately it didn't do any other damage. Those days, a 59, pretty good strong bumper on there. And look back at all those trees, My wife's got to come home when we have all those trees. She worked in the Bible house for years at ABC in Spokane. And then, belatedly, I had a wise thought. Do you know what it was? You guys are just as foolish as I was. What could I have done that I didn't do? Put it in neutral. Did you say that, Doug, or was that this fellow? He's brilliant. But after too late, it's automatic. All I do is shut it, put it in neutral. I never gave it a thought. All the times I worked on cars and everything, I know all that, but somehow in the stress of the deal, and hot wired on the hood. I never gave it a thought until I was sitting there with the steam rolling out from under the thing. What a dummy. I could have just put it out of gear, and that would have done it. Life is strange. People are funny, you know, including used car dealers. Incidentally, I have a new car dealership too, a German NSU, which probably most of you never heard of. They were the originator of the Wankel engine that Mazda picked up. So in fact, I still have some German NSUs, by the way. But at any rate, I thought about that. And the reason I told this story is it seems like for me and probably for most of us, life can get scary. And there's all kinds of things that we really don't know what to do about. It just seems like sometimes our lives are hot wired. And we're just along for the ride and can't seem like we can't get out of it. And then, at least for me, sometimes too late, why didn't I pray about this? Why didn't I pray before it got so bad? Why? And why didn't I think of taking that car out of gear? It's because I was so stressed up and so panicky and so concerned that it didn't cross my mind. Something as simple, as obvious as that. And I was a little pleased that there was quite a hesitation before the brother says, kick it out of gear, you know. And by the way, I've told the same story, basically, at quite a few places, including one of them at the Union Gospel Mission in Spokane, which is a large mission. And we've been honored to go there once every other month for years. In fact, I'm kind of a pioneer. And I've told the story there, and I've said to this fellow, there's a lot of fellows, you know, what could I have done? And it's very rare that somebody says, kick it out of gear. Kick it out of gear. And because we're thinking about the sort of thing that's going on, and even I tell people about it, and they're interested in the story, I guess, and so they're not thinking of that. And that's the way it is with life. And so I had a couple texts I wanted to share. The first one's in Romans chapter 12, and I'll start at verse 10 of Romans chapter 12. I'll start at verse 10. Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love, in honor preferring one another, not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing instant in prayer. I didn't pray before I got in that deal with that car. Maybe if I'd have prayed about this thing, maybe I'd have wised up before I started running on all those trees. I'm not sure. But instant in prayer, and especially in tribulation. It says tribulation, patient in tribulation. And it links instant in prayer right there in tribulation. That's when we're hot wired, you know. Our lives are hot wired and we panic. Distributing to the necessity of saints, given to hospitality, bless them which persecute you, bless and curse not. Here's prayer right in conjunction with this. Talk about hot wired, you know. Here you're being cursed at. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind one toward another, mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. And then it says, I'm kind of glad it says this. King James, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. I found out as a car dealer that's kind of difficult. You know, car dealers are subject to all kinds of insult. And, I found so much about human nature. Ladies, I was brought up with ladies. I was brought up as a cowboy, mean rugged culture. My dad knew a lot of bad words and so on. But my dad, even in the midst of our cowboy country, with women around, he would clean up his language. But nowadays, I found in my business, some of the most foul-mouthed women came in and look at my cars and insult me, and try my patience, And I remember this one lady, she's carrying on like mad. Then she saw my son be honest is a great asset, and so far I have been fairly composed. And she said, "You must be a Christian." I said, "Yeah, I am." She says, "Oh, I'm sorry for my language." I says, "Well," she said, "I hope you haven't offended me. I hope I haven't offended you." I said, "You didn't particularly offend me. I've heard a lot of bad words in my life." I said, but I'm concerned you have offended our God, But I don't know, I wandered down that side path. We just throw that in. And another text I want to read is in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. And this time I will start in verse 15. "See that none render evil for evil unto any man, but ever follow that which is good, both among yourselves, and to all men. Rejoice evermore," and here it is, "pray without ceasing. In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you." In everything give thanks. When I was mowing down those trees and thinking, how am I going to stop this thing, I was not giving thanks. I gave thanks afterward, but it was kind of different things. I thanked that I hadn't got killed or anything like that, but I wasn't thankful I was so stupid, But that's life, isn't it? That is life. We go through these things. And really, this is when, and some of this text I've shared, we could go on and on. We're admonished to pray when we feel the least like it. When everything's going wrong, we don't feel like it. In fact, sometimes in my mind and in my prayers, I'll say on this wise, I trust reverently, "Dear Lord, I'm a little bit irked at you. I don't know what's going on." But then I'm reminded that He knows. He knows. And tomorrow at church, I'll probably zoom in a little more on that. Tomorrow in church, I want to tell you about our honeymoon car. Blue. 1937 Oldsmobile. We're not that old. It was old. But I sure learned something from that 37 Old, which you're going to have to come tomorrow if you want to hear about it. It's good to be with you folks. Good to be with you. Thank you very much. I think that I will tell you that I'm through for now.
Okay.